Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Gate Guardian Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for post-Phantom Nightmare. We got some new cards for the Gate Guardian deck in the latest Yu-Gi-Oh! Booster set. I say new, but these were actually the cards that Para and Dox used against Jaden and Cyrus in the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX series. It just took all this time for us to finally get actual physical copies of the cards, including the new, bigger boss monster, Dark Guardian here. The card they had to fight after they defeated the original Gate Guardian. So really awesome that we finally got these cards, making the deck a lot more viable for playability and what the deck was meant to do. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the main deck monsters. For the Gate Guardian pieces, we are running 2 copies of each. So 2 Sangha of the Thunder, 2 copies of Kazujin, and 2 copies of Suijin. These all just help to make up the many different fusions that we summon, whether it be Gate Guardian combined, Gate Guardian of Thunder and Wind, Gate Guardian of Wind and Water, or Gate Guardian of Water and Thunder. You have all these available combinations with all of the many different Gate Guardian monsters as well. The setup with these cards definitely does come in handy, being able to utilize a good majority of plays thanks to the different summons you can get off and the easy setup you can do. A lot of that setup also comes into the form with cards like Dark Guardian, which we are running 2 copies of. It's always treated as a Gate Guardian card. It cannot be normal summon or set. It must either be special summoned by Dark Element or special summoned from your hand or graveyard by shuffling into the deck one of each of your Sangha, Kazujin, and Suijin that is in your hand, face up on the field, graveyard, and or banished. It cannot be destroyed by battle. If this card is special summoned by the effect of Dark Element, it is unaffected by other monster effects your opponent activates, spells, or card effects. So very useful, a very good Guardian as it says, because it just basically can't be destroyed thanks to a good prerequisite of other card effects if you enable Dark Element being the spell card that they used as well, with the Gate Guardian play of being able to pay half your life points to special summon out the Dark Guardian onto the field thanks to that spell. And we're also running the 3 copies of Labyrinth Heavy Tank. You can normal summon this card without tributing. It cannot attack the turn it is normal summon. During the main phase, you can place one of your Sangha, Kazujin, or Suijin that is banished during your hand or deck face up in your spell and trap card zone as a continuous spell. Then if you control a Labyrinth Wall card, you can destroy 1 monster your opponent controls. You can only use this effect of Labyrinth Heavy Tank once per turn. So kind of like they set up Sangha, Kazujin, and Suijin in the original anime face up in the spell and trap card zone before they created the Gate Guardian combined, because then you can use the monsters wherever they are on the field. So Labyrinth Heavy Tank being a monster that you could just normal summon out. Yes, it can't attack the turn you summon it, but you can use it to set up any of the pieces of the Gate Guardian in the face-up spell and trap card zone that you control. We're also running 3 copies of Shadow Ghoul of the Labyrinth. You can discard this card to add 1 Labyrinth Wall card from your deck to your hand. And at the start of damage step, if your opponent's monster battles while you control a Labyrinth Wall card, you can banish this card from your graveyard to destroy that opponent's monster. So it's the Wall Shadow in the Labyrinth Wall, which is our field spell, Labyrinth Wall Shadow, counting as a Labyrinth Wall card, searchable off of this card, but also being able to be utilized for a protection play after you discard it to the graveyard. The rest of our monsters that we run in the main deck include 3 copies of Magician's Soul. You can send up to 2 spell and trap cards from your hand and or field to the graveyard to draw that many cards. So counting as a face-up spell for our Gate Guardian cards with the Labyrinth Heavy Tank, we can use them for draw power and still make use of them in the graveyard as well for our Gate Guardian fusion summon plays. And also with this card, you can send 1 level 6 or higher spellcaster monster from your deck to the graveyard to activate one of these effects. You can special summon this card, so then this gives you another resource on the field. Kazujin also counts as a spellcaster for that send and setup, but the Magician's Soul play just helps to at least get some more draw power of needed cards by sending off unusable spell or traps that we may have in our hand. Also, the 1 copy of Armageddon Knight to set up the Dark Guardian in our graveyard as well for the special summon of this card from our hand or graveyard. So it helps to thin out the deck just by using Armageddon Knight to then send Dark Guardian, giving us a quicker access to this card by then being able to shuffle back our other Gate Guardian combos. And also 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring to finish off the rest of the main deck monsters, just being the hand trap of choice. I was considering running the Horus engine in the deck just for having more graveyard setup for the send power that it can do, but it is a pretty pricey engine, so I decided just to stick with more of a pure variant. We do have Magician's Souls being reprinted in the Rarity Collection too, making it more available if you were to use it in this deck. For the spells, we run 3 copies of Labyrinth Wall Shadow. Monsters cannot attack the turn they are summoned, except monsters whose original level is 5 or higher. Once per turn during your main phase, you can place one of your Sangha, Kazujin, or Suijin that is banished or in your hand or deck face up in your spell and trap card zone as a continuous spell. At the start of your opponent's battle phase, you can target one monster your opponent controls with less than 1600 attack and destroy it. So those are the cards that are at the mercy of the Wall Shadow as it was in the anime, but also being able to just have another way along with the Labyrinth Heavy Tank to set up our Sangha and Kazujin and Suijin that much more quickly face up in our spell and trap card zone thanks to this field spell. And also 2 copies of Double Attack, Wind and Thunder. If you control a Gate Guardian monster, target one card on the field and destroy it. During your main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard to add one Sangha, Kazujin, or Suijin that is banished or in your deck to your hand. So more search power thanks to this card, but being a quick play spell gives us more access to other plays to destroy our opponent's cards when we have a Gate Guardian monster. 2 of the new Dark Element spell for the setup for Dark Guardian. If you have Gate Guardian monster in your graveyard, pay half your life points to special summon one level 11 or higher Gate Guardian monster from your hand, deck, or extra deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. And you can banish this card from your graveyard to add one of Sangha, Kazujin, and Suijin from your deck, or banish to your hand. You can only use each effect of Dark Element once per turn. So there's the add back power as well. Just being able to add the 3 monsters needed for many of our other plays gives us continuous support for the Labyrinth Wall Shadow to set up more monsters, Labyrinth Heavy Tank, or just having them in our hand to then go for that fusion play as well. And then for the one-ofs for these spells, I run the 1 copy of Call by the Grave, 1 copy of Terraforming, and the 1 copy of Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial having the same play as our Armageddon Knight to send Dark Guardian to the graveyard, Terraforming to search out our Labyrinth Wall Shadow additionally, and Call by the Grave just to stop any of our opponent's hand traps if we were trying to get draw power off of some of the important cards like Magician's Soul. And then for the rest of the spells, 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent. Just like if we get hand trapped by our opponent, we have a way to at least get some more draw power consistency back, because then those cards in our hand can at least help to continue our plays, because we're only really normal summoning out cards like Labyrinth Heavy Tank and relying on send and setup for the good majority of the other plays. So if we can get into some of those other cards, it can keep us from having a dead hand to use against our opponent. With the rest of the spells being 3 copies of Forbidden Droplet, just another way to stop some of the bigger boss monsters our opponent may have against us, setting some of our other monsters, stopping their card effects and not being able to respond in return. And then for the traps, I run the 1 copy of Prey of Jirai Gumo, special summoning it out as a normal monster in the field. Then you can destroy 1 monster your opponent controls, as in this card's column, and you can banish this card from your graveyard to add 1 Sangha, the Thunder, Kazujin, or Suijin that is banished in your deck to your hand. So another card you could also just potentially send off of Magician's Soul if need be, to then grab more resources from the deck and then have a banish in the graveyard to search more of your 3 Guardian monsters, with Infinite Impermanence being our last hand trap along with Ash Blossom in the deck. Just another good card to rely on if your opponent goes first against you. And moving on now to the extra deck, we're running 2 copies of Gate Guardians combined. It must be special summoned from your extra deck by banishing the above cards from your hand, field, and or graveyard. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a card you control, quick effect, you can negate that effect. If you do, destroy that card. You can only use this effect of Gate Guardian combined once per turn, thrice per turn, my apologies there. And if a face-up special summon card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card, you can special summon 1 level 11 or lower Gate Guardian monster from your deck or extra deck, ignoring the summoning condition. So the fact that it does say level 11 for the summoning options kind of rules out, sadly, our Dark Guardian, but we can use Dark Guardian to grab back the other Gate Guardian monsters and then use those 3 cards we added back for the summon to get at our bigger Gate Guardian combined monster onto the field. Also, 1 copy of each Gate Guardian Thunder and Wind, Gate Guardian Wind and Water, and the 1 Gate Guardian of Water and Thunder, having these 3 monsters as well as additional summoning plays, needing Kazujin and Suijin for the middle one, Sangha and Kazujin for the left one, and Sangha and Suijin for the right one. Having all the different combos needed if we have the 2 in our hand. It gives us another Gate Guardian monster as well in the graveyard for us to pay half our life points to special summon out the Dark Guardian to the field also. With the other cards in the extra deck being the 1 copy of number 11 Big Eye, 1 Hope Harbinger, 1 Divine Arsenal Zeus as well for our monsters to summon out. And for the Link monsters, 1 SP Little Knight, 1 Dark the Dark Charmer, 1 Barricade Board Blocker, 1 Cerberus, 1 IP Masquerena, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, and the 1 Access Code Talker to finish off the Link monsters as well. And then as for some of the go-to plays in the deck, as for the setup that we mentioned before, depending on if you can get your Dark Guardian into the graveyard, that helps to speed along your setup, but what you need mostly is the setup of the Gate Guardian monsters as well. For the Dark Element play, if that's the card you go for, you have more protection for your Dark Guardian on the field if you have a Gate Guardian monster in your graveyard. So the big play comes down to getting 2 Gate Guardian monsters or 2 of the Element monsters to then banish for the Fusion Summon play as well, whether you set them up with your Labyrinth Heavy Tank, which that could be 1 normal summon there, needed for the play, because then you can summon out your Labyrinth Tank, having the card to then set from your hand or deck face up in your spell and trap card zone, having the other Gate Guardian monster in hand to then use for the banish of those monsters to summon your needed Gate Guardian monster out onto the field with the 2 that you summoned. And then also for this special summon for the play, you're not really locked out of any other plays, so you could go into a Link 2 play, summoning out a Link 2 monster as needed onto the field. And then also for the special summon by shuffling one of each Sanga, Kazujin, and Suijin. So that would go for the Dark Guardian. You would just need the 1 additional Gate Guardian monster in the graveyard. So what you could do there is you could have the Labyrinth Wall Shadow, having more of the field spell surges that we have in the deck to set up Suijin, giving you those needed monsters as well for the shuffling in your deck of each Sanga, Kazujin, and Suijin face up on the field, graveyard, or banish. So then you'll have those 3 monsters, and you can get Dark Guardian out through there. Or if you have the Dark Element, then you have your cards in the graveyard that we mentioned before, having the Gate Guardian monster in your graveyard, which is what we sent it off for the Link play, to then have the pay of half our life points, and that can summon the Dark Guardian at least from the deck onto the field, giving us a more protected monster as well, since it does also have 3800 attack, making it all the more difficult for your opponent to get around this card. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. Very, very awesome that we got this support finally in the actual TCG. It really does add a lot to the deck for the plays. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira, Twig out.